Welcome back to LegalEdge 3 or LLB YouTube channel. So 3 days from here, it's 22nd today, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th is NLSAT 2026. I think quickly in the chat box, how's the Josh everyone on a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious each one of you are. I mean, truth be told, I think all of us are as anxious as you guys are. We've been walking this journey alongside you. So on the day of the examination, just give your best. Do not think much about it. Do not be super stressed. I think we commit a lot of mistakes under pressure, under stress. So just feel relaxed, put in your best, and so that once you step out of the examination hall, you feel content of having done the best that you possibly can. So just generally, if you were to describe what you're feeling right 3 days before the examination, what would it be? Quickly in the chat box. Just one word to describe what you're feeling. So while in the course of the session, the flow would be that we'll discuss that how you're supposed to structure the next 3 days so that you are optimum utilization of the next 3 days. And without the next 3 days are not about hoarding any more material, learning anything new, but just in a very relaxed, calm state of mind, revisiting, revising, recalling. We'll come to it as to how to do all of this, how to prioritize, just revisiting, recalling, and prioritizing areas that you're actually supposed to revisit and rethink. Is it like CR, English, or GK? GK also, general awareness. Now, NLSAT expects you to be generally aware. So, past 12 months of current affairs, anything that has happened in the last 2 to 3 years. So, prioritization is very, very important. We'll also be addressing one question that have been asked by a lot of students the last week and for the next 3 days, that should they be solving any mocks or not, any more mocks or not. And then we'll also come to select on the day of the examinations your do's and don'ts. Sounds good? Yes, no, maybe? Quickly in the chat box. Yes, we'll come to all of those questions. That should you be writing mocks, the time allocation, the next 3 days should be about part A or part B, etc. We'll discuss all of this, but I just want you to do that for the next 3 days. Promise yourself that you will not let the pressure of what if you don't get to you. You will not panic and you will proceed with a mindset. So each time this thought hits you that what if you don't, think about an alternative, that what if you will. One exercise that I do with all my students when it's like a very first class with them or when I'm interacting with them for the first time, is that what I ask them to write 5 things that they would want to do once they are in their dream law school. And we also do an exercise of strengths and weaknesses, one that they feel that will potentially keep them from making their dream law school, and like 5 reasons why they want to be at a certain place. And each time this hits you that, listen, what if I don't? Just to revisit that list. So the next 3 days, keep reminding yourself that what if you make it to your dream law school? I'm sure all of you will, but what if? So you'll be celebrating your next, maybe like the new year, friends, concerts, etc. So just don't let the anxiety get the best of you. It's okay to be stressed. There's something called as good stress also. You've been putting in so much of effort. Your dream is at stake. So it's absolutely fine to be like stressed, anxious. Just don't let that get the best of you and prevent you from preparing. Okay. On that note, let's quickly, everyone with me? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, let's proceed. First thing, very important. Just manifest that this is going to be the best that you'll perform, no matter how much you've been scoring in mocks, no matter how much you've scored high, low. What you will score on the day of the examination is what will eventually make a difference. And so for the next 3 days, a winner mindset. Mindset makes a huge difference. Believe me, on the day of the examination, when there will already be so many variables at play, traveling to the center, the venue. You don't know whether the venue would be, say, like conducive or not. Most of you have gotten national law schools. Most of you got in private colleges as well, universities as well. But the next 3 days, you should be operating with a winner mindset. If at all you allow negativity get to you, you will panic. And most importantly, what happens is that in that state of frame, you will tend to forget important things. Your mind will objectively overlook key terms. Like if the question says which of these is not, your mind will automatically skip that not because you're over analyzing, over assessing things. So next 3 days, winner mindset, just keep manifesting and keep imagining as if you've already made it to your dream law school, and give your best on the day of the examination. Moving forward, this is very important, the 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. time frame. So now most of you maybe post this session may take a call, or might have already decided that you will not be writing any more mocks. There's something called as, say, like cognitive burnout. That again, 150 minutes, extensive reading, 8 passages, part B, there's so much to read, so much to do. Few of you might also be stressed preparing for any other law entrance LLB entrance examination. So you've already reached the stage where you feel that you've solved enough mocks and you don't want to solve any more mocks. Maybe post this session, the decision remains the same or it might change. But either ways, make it a point that your brain is conditioned to be active in this time frame. Understand, I have said this a lot of times in my sessions, in my classes, that our brains, so we are night owls and not early risers. We spend a lot of time doom scrolling, maybe binge watching, and our minds are not accustomed to stay active, particularly in these hours. It might be like super active, late afternoon, evening, but not in these hours. And if you're not active in these hours, believe me, you will start to zone out reading these passages. You will have to read the same thing twice, thrice to make sense of it, to comprehend it. The problem, NLSAT is a game of time management. You have an objective component, you have a subjective component. It's a game of time management, and you have limited time to solve those passages and questions. You cannot afford to read the same thing twice or thrice, or you will miss out on completing the paper. One of the non-negotiables is you have to complete the paper. So for all those attending the session, watching later, if you decide to not, say, the next 3 days, make sure that you're doing a lot of active, complex reading also, which will demand you to put in more effort to comprehend in these hours. Pick up complex reading, pick up complex editorials, and a lot of dense reading, I would say. A lot of dense, active reading in these hours, so that your mind is conditioned, your mind is conditioned and accustomed to reading heavily in these hours. Absolutely non-negotiable. Yes, so somebody's in the chat box saying that I marked wrong answer because of rushed reading, and that's exactly what happens when you add that pressure. Guys, you have enough time, will also come to time allocation, but 60 minutes top for part A. And also, I keep telling you guys, you don't have 150 minutes, you have 140 minutes for your paper, because 10 minutes of your time, if you'll also read your admit card instructions, you would say that it clearly says that an attendance sheet would be circulated, you'll have to mark attendance, you'll have to fill out the OMR, review, you will need time to fill out bubbles. Good 5-8 minutes will go in filling your bubbles, marking those 75 questions, then just flipping through the pages, reading part A and part B, invigilator will come, anything. So you essentially have, say, like 135 to 140 minutes for the entire paper. And if you dedicate 60 minutes for part A, you're left with, say, like 70-80 minutes for part B. So ensure that your brain is conditioned and you're not rushing it unnecessarily, or you will end up marking incorrect. You will end up marking filling the wrong bubble. Very importantly, for the next 3 days, even if you're not writing a mock, try timing yourself with an analog watch. You're not allowed smartwatches. You are not allowed smart watches. So make it a point that you're practicing with an analog watch. Otherwise, if you've not practiced it with an analog watch, what will essentially happen is that a lot of time will actually go and say like seeing the watch, then seeing the paper, seeing the watch, switching between the two things. And if your brain is again not accustomed to reading the time on an analog watch, you will struggle with that as well. Smartwatches are not allowed. So all of these might sound like very small things, but eventually it compounds. And it's these small tweaks that will make a huge difference. I hope everyone is taking note and you will practice this way for the next 3 days. Okay, quickly moving forward, revision. Now, while a lot of people will tell you that, the last 3 days should be about revision, not reading anything extra, recall, let's just properly structure how to allocate time between part A and part B revision. Part B is more about practice. So just to ensure that you are in touch with writing, because your handwriting also equally matters. You're in touch with writing, you're in touch with articulating. Maybe you can devote the second half of the day, an hour or so, just to practice your case studies and analytical essay. But we'll try and understand as to how to divide your part A and part B revision. So quickly coming to part A. Now for English and critical reasoning, you would see that more or less, if you'll analyze the last year papers as well, more or less this is your question type. So your direct comprehension, which is like identify authors, primary criticism, central idea, specific stated facts. You have for CR, you have strengthening, weakening the author's argument. Just a second. You have identify the most likely long-term consequences, inference and application, what the author is most likely to agree with, apply a concept, hypothetical scenario, etc. So more or less you would see that these are your question types. Now the next 3 days, when you're revising, what you're essentially supposed to do is all LE students, the mocks that you have solved, anybody with like any other organization as well, just pick up those mocks and see that which type of questions you have essentially gotten incorrect. So a lot of you might be struggling with say like weakening of arguments. It happens with a lot of you that if there are two very close questions, you end up marking the wrong one. Go read the explanation and see what is it that you additionally assumed, comprehended, that you marked the wrong one, not the right one. That will make you extremely cautious on the day of the examination. So practice one question type and revisit your mocks and see which type of questions that you have gotten incorrect. If you still have any doubts, connect with your mentors, or just reach out to us, drop it in the comment box, anything. But it's very essential that you have solved, you just revisited these type of questions once, you solved them, and primarily the questions that you've gotten incorrect in your previous mocks, just practice more. Revise the concept, revise, test your conceptual understanding and practice a lot of them so that you're comfortable and on the day of the examination you do not get it incorrect. Sounds good, guys? Okay. Quickly coming to general knowledge. So while NLSAT says that last 12 months of current affairs and then anything which is of significance in the last 2 to 3 years is extremely important, given the amount of time that we have in hand, prioritize last 6 to 8 months of current affairs. Revise last 6 to 8 months of current affairs, and this should essentially be post the 10 to 12:30 time frame. 10 to 12:30 should be devoted to extensively reading so that your brain you do not get zoned out. Must happen with a lot of you, does happen with a lot of you that say for instance you've read 5 passages, by the time you reach the 6th passage, 7th passage, you start to zone out. You have to reread the same thing again and again to make sense of it. So utilize the 10 to 12:30 time either if you're writing a mock or for dense reading. Post that, keep for a lot of revision, and you can again practice in revision depending upon how your brain functions, allocate time. say like afternoon, if you feel that you're slightly more active, you can read more and you can retain more. For GK, pick up a time slot wherein you retain more, because NLSAT GK is essentially memory based, so you will have to retain a lot of important facts. So pick up a time slot wherein you can retain more, and a time slot wherein your retaining capacity is slightly lesser, use it for practicing, and that could be essentially for English and CR, that you're using it to just go through the mocks, the category, the type of questions that you've gotten incorrect, and you're practicing a lot of them. So last 6 to 8 months of current affairs needs to be prioritized. Now, why is it that I've highlighted these things? That in the past years you would have seen questions on important awards, prizes. There were questions on Nobel Prize, books and authors, and personalities in news. So now, since these are essentially memory based, high possibility is that if you had read them at some point in time, you might feel that you remember, but on the day of the examination, you tend to forget. So just revisit them once so that you remember them on the day of the examination as well. Then another very important aspect that I wanted to highlight is a lot of pop culture themes. So now across, you've already been given, say, with all students with LE, you've already been given a very detailed PDF of themes to expect for your analytical essay. We've extensively practiced an array of themes for Part A passages, case studies, etc. So NLSAT also focuses on a lot of pop culture themes. Now, pop culture themes is basically anything which you say like trending, it frames the mainstream narrative, discussions, etc. Now, why I've highlighted a couple of examples as well, because these have been extensively in news and they have pretty much shaped 2025 narrative discussion. I think all super active who still use Insta, like every second reel must have been around something or so. And I will explain it with examples as well. Just quickly once go through the chat. So there's an interesting suggestion that maybe like after every one passage, you can write a case study. So that's essentially which section should you, for ideal order for solving NLSAT. A little digression guys, but I'll just quickly solve this down. So should you be solving part A first or should you be solving part B first? Stick to whatever you've been doing in mocks. Don't change it now, don't change it on the day of the examination. Solving part B first has its own disadvantage, has its own pros and cons. Solving part A has its own pros and cons. I suggest solving part A first because you can time yourself and by that otherwise, so it's very natural to us, you might have experienced it while writing exams in colleges or schools, is that we write the first answer very calmly, as if we have all the time in the world. And then we rush by the time we reach the last answer. It might happen that if you pick up a subjective component first, you end up giving a lot of time and you will not have a lot of time left for part A. The problem is that your part B scores will saturate after a point in time. You will not be able to score anything beyond say like 50, 55. That's also like the upper cap in part B. So this is where you optimize your scores and thus it needs the requisite time. If you score like a 60, 62 plus in part A, it puts you in a very comfortable position. So even if you score slightly less in part B, you'll get through. So the effort is to reward ratio is very high in part A. You'll either get a question correct or incorrect. More specifically with GK also. So GK, the certainty of you getting an answer correct is higher if you know the question. So again, effort is to reward ratio. With part B, subjective component, you're never really given full marks for part B. And for those who do like doing 2 passages, then a case study, then doing 2 passages and a case study. So there's something also called as contextual switching. Part A demands a different approach, part B demands a different approach. As long as your brain is aligned to do it, it's fine. Otherwise, if you lose momentum, high possibilities it will take you some time to come back to part B, brain your wire, and that contextual switching might take say like additional 2-3 minutes. So while in isolation 2-3 minutes might not sound like a big downside, But if you compound it across, if it comes to 10-12 minutes in a paper where you already have limited time, it'll make it extremely problematic. Okay. Now, yes, quickly circling back to pop culture themes is, so a lot of you might have seen the penguin, the punch monkey, certain themes around as to how this inspired an entire generation, sparked an extensive debate around whether the 9 to 5 job, or whether one should say like walk away, do something which they like. A lot of discussion around this. Then the monkey. Then movies also like Chatiya sparked, again, marital rape is one of those issues which has been extensively discussed, is being discussed, and people are divided whether or not it should be. It's a debate of debate between consent, individual rights, and at the same time the sanctity and the grab of where we place the institution of marriage. Also about Mardani being, there are a lot of allegations against the movie for spreading, for misleading information with regard to the missing person details to promote their movie. Or for that matter, Dhurandhar has been extensively discussed, and whether propaganda, the issues discussed. Now, all of these pop culture themes, if my memory serves well, NLSAT 2025 had passages on the Ghibli studio, Ranbir Alabadia case, again, extensively discussed. All of these were in news in the last 6-8 months and were being discussed from different angles. With the Ranbir Alabadia case, that to what extent a comedian's liable or should be held accountable for the jokes that they're making, whether it's restrictive of freedom of speech and expression, and at what point do you draw the line, reasonable restriction. The Ghibli studio, it was extensively used, every second reel, all social media platforms being extensively discussed. So NLSAT time and again will pick up pop culture themes. There was also a passage on Mrs. Again, that one movie, that thought-provoking movie, made people think that we have institutionalized sexism, we have institutionalized certain things, and how a lot of time women do not even realize that they're being subjugated or going through certain things and continue to do it until unless it crosses a certain limit. So again, NLSAT time and again picks up pop culture themes. So these are super important. Or for that matter, you would see that the last year or so was also defined by a lot of discussions because of a lot of instances wherein minors, road rage, accidents, and minors driving under the influence of substance, road accidents, and they were given bails, and Pune, Goa, etc. Now, in instances like these, where do you place the accountability? Is it the guardian who is liable, or should there be any legal mechanism to deal with such cases? Now, what happens is that these are certain issues that you might be super thorough and aware with, but you might not be approaching them from a competitive exams perspective. But again, we've seen that NLSAT is one of those examinations which picks up certain themes, certain issues, and these might be extremely, extremely relevant for that matter. So if so far you just missed out reading a little about them and framing your thoughts around these, and these are relevant, extremely relevant, both from perspective of part A and part B, just read a little about them. Okay, quickly moving forward for part B. So see, essentially, I suggest all my students to split part B also in 2 sections, case studies and analytical essay. You have 12 questions, you have 5 questions here, 12 marks each, which is 60, and you have 15 marks. Again, a lot of scope for you to optimize your scores here. And while writing your case studies, few things that you're supposed to keep in mind is, so you can practice in terms of just revisit the kind of structure that you're using. So a lot of you would see people suggesting you IRAC, and of course there is no prior legal knowledge expected. What you're essentially expected are reasoned arguments. Now, but at the same time, what distinguishes a good case study, an answer from an ordinary answer, is that your case study has arguments, counter arguments, rebuttals, and avoid regurgitating what's already given in your case study. Understand that you're constrained by space, so do not just rewrite what's already given. You have to essentially show the application of law, the elements which are given to a given set of facts. Then the easiest way that I explain it to all my students is, now understand, before the court of law, you're arguing for your client. You will necessarily have to show that if these are 4 elements of law, the given factual matrix, how do they either apply to it or they do not apply to it. And at the same time, so arguments is basically something that you are arguing to strengthen that why your case wins. Counter arguments is this is alternative view, something that just imagine that your opposing party will be arguing that, listen, what you're saying is incorrect because of XYZ reason. Your rebuttal is you again countering the alternative perspective that, listen, because of these XYZ reason, this alternative perspective does not exist. And that's exactly what makes a good case study. A lot of reasoning, and NLSAT also actually tests, so not all facts are important. It also tests whether or not you're picking material relevant facts. Say for instance, if A was wearing blue t-shirt, now the question essentially is that you have to decide whether A is guilty of murder or not. This fact that which color t-shirt A was wearing might not be making any difference to the application of law and reasoning. That's not an important fact. So NLSAT also tests that whether or not you're picking up material relevant facts or not. So circling back to case studies, argument, counter arguments, rebuttals, and then you conclude. Avoid regurgitating the facts. Selection of facts is very important. Facts which essentially frame which the foundation of deciding in which of the sides the case would sway. Pick up those facts and answer them. Okay. For analytical essay, again, use introduction, then body, arguments, counter arguments, conclusion. Try and add a lot of data, references, and substantiate your arguments. So again, there is a difference between an assertion and an argument. Assertion says you will make it to NLSIU Bangalore, you will clear NLSAT. That's an assertion. An argument is when you back your assertion. Is that you will clear NLSAT because you've solved so many mocks, because you've been putting in efforts the entire year. So assertion with backing is what makes your argument, and something that you should take note of both in your case studies and more so specifically in your analytical essay. For analytical essay also, all students with Ali, we've shared a detailed list of almost like more or less 100 themes. Now these themes are recurring in nature, and you can expect passages both in part A and part B. So that general themes like women rights. So we've read a lot of debate around women rights, wherein menstrual hygiene was elevated to the stature of a fundamental right, or whether should menstrual leave be mandatory or not, etc. You can talk about socio-political issues with to what extent can we intervene with personal laws, and then transgender rights, the Sabrimala is again being discussed. A gazillion issues from a social political perspective, from women rights, different stakeholders. So you can expect passages both in part A and part B for the same. Now, very important question. Should you be solving mocks or not? So for all those, so you can essentially compartmentalize yourself in either of the two categories. Now first is, where are you mentally? If you feel that you're already mentally stressed and that in the last 3 days solving any other mock, analyzing is something that will add to the cognitive burnout, don't do it. Just analyze your previous mocks and whatever we have discussed in the previous slides. For all those who still have a little bandwidth and just want to stay in touch, just write at least one more mock. solve at least one more mock and try. So with LE, solve the most recent mock. With any other organization, try solving their most recent one, so that, because essentially at least I can speak for us, that whatever current affairs that we have particularly added in these mocks are the extremely relevant mocks. Does not make sense if you solve, say, like any mock that was initially scheduled last week, April, May, because the current affairs would also be on those lines. So I would suggest solve a very recent mock, but solve at least one more mock, so that you're essentially testing yourself that in that time zone, in that time pressure, you're not repeating your silly mistakes. So at least one more mock. And for those of you, again, it's a very personal choice that you would have to make. I've been talking to a lot of students, and a lot of them feel like they've already solved so many mocks that they feel a little stretched and burdened. So just utilize the 10 to 12:30 time slot for a lot of dense reading. But still, if you're like mentally a little settled, I will suggest everyone to solve one more mock. Can be tomorrow or day after. Don't do it like a day before the examination. Either today or tomorrow, not a day before the examination. A day before the examination, just keep it light reading, revisiting a lot of things, just revising important facts, retention, but not a mock a day before the examination. So just keep it either today, tomorrow, or day after, in from 10 to 12:30. Somebody is asking, they've written essays. So if you have written essays based on the topic shared by us, I will actually have the link in the chat box. You guys can send in our essays. We will try and share feedback at the earliest. Something that, again, as an organization, you want to be there for students through and through and help them in whichever capacity that we can. Of course, our enrolled students with us, we do an extensive set of exercises first. Otherwise, we try and cater to students via YT, via organic platforms, Telegram, YT community, etc. So I will have the email ID linked here. You guys can send in your essays, or if you have any doubts, please in the comment box or the open Telegram channel. The link is also in the description, but I'll have the email ID shared. So in case you're seeking like specific suggestions or particular feedback specifically for part B, please feel free to reach out. Okay. Super important, your exam day instructions. Again, guys, please do not forget important documents, your admit card, your photo ID. Make it a point. So now I'll tell you another problem. Since the exam is early from 10 to 12:30, if there's any panic early morning, maybe say like if you need anything, any panic early morning, you'll get into a very uncomfortable space, and it'll be difficult for you to then get into a time space, get into a zone where you have to attempt the paper. So make it a point that you have everything ready, like a night before, checked it twice, thrice, and absolutely do not leave it for early morning tomorrow. Reach the venue in time. I think 9:15. All of you are supposed to reach the venue. For those of you who have to travel longer hours or space, please leave in time. I mean, I know something very basic, but then it's the basics that we most of the time get incorrect. Again, ballpoint pen only, blue and black. Your admit card very clearly says so. Now these 4 things. Do not get stuck on any question. So a lot of time will happen with you कि हम ego पे ले लेते हैं कि यार ये कैसे solve नहीं हो रहा. Understand that you will have limited time. Completing the paper in time, a lot of you seen, discussed, a lot of you struggle with completing the paper in time, and for a paper that also has negative for unattempted questions, you cannot afford to lose it. You cannot afford to not attempt a question. Plus, the competition is fierce, and believe me, a lot of competition will also get eliminated because they will not be able to complete their paper in time. We're talking about 75 objective questions, 5 case studies, and 1 analytical essay. For all those who are preparing for NLSAT should actually also appreciate themselves. It is one of the very competitive examination and tests you at multiple levels. So a lot of competition will also get eliminated because they won't be able to complete their paper in time. So make it a point that you do not get stuck on any question. Ego pe mat lena. So just to exemplify, if you have 60 minutes for your part A and you have 8 passages, you can do the math as to how much time will you have per passage. This roughly comes to say like 7-8 minutes per passage. Now, if you get stuck on any question, you end up spending more time than what is needed. It's better that you lose like 1 mark here but save solving the next 4, 5, 7 questions instead of trying to get that 1 mark and compromising on another. Do not get stuck on any question. Time management, please keep a tab on how much time that you're utilizing, part A, part B, and then move forward. Fill the OMR very carefully. Personal experience has happened with a student that the order, he just marked one bubble. So since the order was disturbed to one of the questions, he ended up marking all questions incorrect, because then what he did, he had first marked all the answers in the question booklet, and while he was marking, so say for instance it was question 24 and 25, he marked the answer for question 25 and 24, and that's how his entire order was disturbed. So I suggest all my students that at least just mark as and when you're getting the answer. You can do one passage and then mark the answers, one complete passage, then answer, one complete passage, one answer, versus you first solve the 75 questions in entirety and then you're filling the all 75 bubbles. You can do one passage OMR, one passage OMR. That's something suggested, but again, whatever that you're comfortable with and you've been practicing so far, stick to it. Remember, for part B, you are constrained by space. So just flip through the pages once and see how much space do you have, and then start writing. Do not just jump into writing your case study or your analytical essay. See how much space you have. You're constrained by space. While analytical essay is a word limit, approximately 500 words. With case studies, you're constrained by space. Take note how much space you have. Prepare an outline for part B and then start writing. Should not happen that you've exhausted the space and you're still left with your, say, like arguments, counter arguments, or conclusion. So with this, we come to the end of this detailed 3 days checklist. Now, any questions in the chat box? And guys, do not panic. All the best. We're here, available through and through. If you found this information, please like, share. I mean, वो motivate करता है to make more such videos and to interact with you guys more and more and keep doing things. Rest, all the best. I wish to see all of you NLS this year and send us a lot of pictures. No, you won't be able to. So once you have filled the bubble, you cannot go and override, say like cancel and fill another bubble. One bubble that you mark, and that is why be extremely cautious with filling your bubbles. Come on, any more questions, guys? And I hope the session was extremely insightful for everyone. I think that is not something that the instructions are very clear on. So, can't be very certain that if you're given any additional time to read the question paper. I think the paper starts at 10 and that's when you get the paper and the OMR. But the admit card is not very clear on this. There are no instructions. But logically also, you should get the paper. You get the paper at 10. The test starts at 10. Come on, guys. Any more questions? On that note, all the best for NLSAT 2026. All of you have put in a lot of time, effort, and energy. Just go there with a winner mindset. We'll meet you post the examination also with the analysis, how the paper was, expected cutoff, etc. All nitty-gritties, all details, and we are available through and through. Reach out to us. You can drop it in the comment section. You can reach out on the Telegram channel. And yeah, all the best. I hope to see you guys all at NLSIU Bangalore this year.